bullpen does in the Braves last night. We'll dive into that. Just can't seem to get past the Toronto Blue Jays. Can't seem to get over 500 in 2021. So we'll dive into that here in a minute. Also have some PFF power rankings to dive into as well. But Cam, the news, I think, of the day for local sports teams, the current 4th seed in the Eastern Conference in the NBA is the Atlanta Hawks. If the season ended right now, Cam, the Atlanta Hawks would be hosting a playoff series.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's good for the Hawks, but look who they're playing in their 5th spot right now.
What are you talking about?
That's a bad matchup. They got to play Miami in that 5th spot. But they're all of them right now tied for that 4th seed. Whoever loses tonight, whoever wins goes up, goes down. So let's just hope the Hawks can maintain that 4th seed.
So who do you think the Hawks want to draw in that first round? I mean, because between the Heat and the Knicks, who would you rather draw? Because if it's me, I know they made it to the finals last year, but I'd rather have the Heat than the Knicks right now.
I would go Knicks because come playoff time, you still got to go through an 8-man rotation. It gets down to 8 people, and the Heat have 8 guys that could go. And the Knicks, I don't know yet, but I just know they're pretty good. They're a good team, but I wouldn't want to see the Heat at all. No team in the East.
How much of a difference has them getting healthy made? Because I know the Hawks all season, you just have not seen them with their full complement of weapons, but now in the past couple of weeks, you've seen it now to where they're pretty much getting back to full strength. I know a couple guys really starting to work their way back in, but now that they have their full complement of weapons, how good is this team?
They're really good. I remember at the beginning of the season when I saw Gallinari and Bogdanovich get picked up, I was like, okay, they're a bona fide playoff team. And I'm not talking about just, a pushover. They're a real deal team. They have they're a great offensive team, getting better at defense. I like the fact that Atlanta has a basketball team that is now prominent. They're talked about now. It's great to have that in Atlanta.
So as we sit right now, Cody,
if they play the Heat, this season they've won 2 out of 3 games against the Heat.
Yeah.
I'm saying
I'd rather play the Heat than the Knicks because the Knicks have been a really good team this year. Julius Randle's been an unbelievable player. I'd rather play the Heat than the Knicks. But as we sit right now, the Sixers are the 1 seed. They would play the winner of the Pacers and the Wizards as we sit right now. The Nets are the 2 seed, and they'd play the winner of the Celtics and the Hornets. I have to imagine the Celtics would win that game, but that's a weird play-in tournament there. So, I mean, when it goes in, Cam, it could be Celtics facing the Pacers or the Wizards, and then whoever wins that game is the higher seed and gets rewarded with playing the Nets, and then whatever team loses that game gets rewarded with playing the Sixers. It's a weird format that the NBA has come up with this play-in tournament. And then again, the other 2 matchups would be Bucks, Knicks, Hawks, Heat. And that's a pretty good Eastern Conference playoff first round there, so that should be fun to watch. Flip side of it, on the Western Conference right now, the Jazz, the 1 seed, and the Suns, the 2, and then you'd have the 4 seed Nuggets taking on the 5th seeded Trailblazers, and the 3 seeded Clippers taking on the Mavericks. Notice I haven't mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers yet, because as we sit right now, the Lakers would have to play the Warriors in the first round of the play-in tournament, Cody, and then would have to beat either the Spurs or the Grizzlies. Cam, how worried are you about the prospect of the Los Angeles Lakers having to beat Steph Curry? Oh, he's yawning. Oh, yeah, yawning in the screen. You're not worried at all.
Man, I'm not. For one, we're not going to even be in the play-in. At the end of this week, just look at the standings closely and go look at the games remaining. Guarantee you we'll be the 5 or 6 seed by the end of this week. We're a game and a half behind.
Make sure we mark this audio down, Cody.
Yeah.
So we had a guarantee right there.
Yeah, I guarantee you. We have Houston tonight. We're going to get them up out the way. Thanks for participating. And then we have 2 games left. If you look at Portland, they have Denver, Phoenix, and Utah left. They're losing 2 of those last 3. We're going to jump to 5, play a injured Denver team. LeBron's going to get his legs back. We're all right. We're all right. That's how I see it. The Lakers are okay.
LeBron's getting a little controversy going on. He made a TikTok jumping around. He was literally like jumping around, and a lot of Lakers fans were pretty mad.
That's fine.
saying, "Hey, man,
there's a difference between bouncing around and
a whole game. I agree.
And running full speed up and down the court against 7-foot tall mutants. Like there's a difference between.
You're telling me there's a difference between TikToks and playing a full game of NBA.
Yeah, people
I
can
don't
calm,
know.
yeah,
Dude.
people can calm down. It's like,
I don't know about that.
it's like when someone's like has an ACL and then they see the video. It's like, well, I saw a guy walking around downtown. It's like, well, you can walk after you have surgery. There's a difference between walking and having to make a cut on a previously torn ligament. So people would calm down. LeBron can make his TikToks. It's fine. I think what the entire NBA is hoping for, Cam, is that you're wrong and that the Lakers then have to play in that play-in tournament so they can pray and say, come on, Golden State, just takes one game. Just take, get them out.
They better hope. I'm telling it would be. They'll be the most scared. They'll be the scariest 7th seed in NBA history if LeBron comes back and they beat Golden State in this play-in. They're going to beat Phoenix, and then there's only one team in the West that can really beat them, and that's the Clippers, and that's a big if. So they're scary if LeBron comes back healthy. If not, the season's kind of a wash. Anthony Davis is a great player, but not winning without LeBron.
So you're not afraid of the Jazz at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm more scared of Phoenix and Dallas and Clippers than I am of the Jazz. I'm not a big believer of the Jazz.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Again, the Hawks right now, as we sit here, are the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. I believe, Cam, they could drop as low as the 6 seed. I don't think they can drop into that play-in tournament, though. So the Hawks locked out of that. So that's good news for Hawks fans. But now you're kind of hoping to keep that home playoff series against either the Knicks or the Bucks coming up. But again, NFL schedule release coming out tonight. We already know what week 1 is going to look like. You're going to see the 2021 NFL season kick off when the Cowboys travel to Tampa Bay to take on the defending Super Bowl champion Buccaneers there. So that one will be cool. A lot of storylines inside of that. Obviously, the Super Bowl champs return their entire, I think really their entire starting 22.
All 22, yep.
Plus a lot of their 2 deep as well. So see if they can repeat with that. Flip side of that is also be the return of Dak Prescott. So that'll be fun. Then you have the first game of the season for the Atlanta Falcons will be at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. We remember what happened the last time the Falcons opened the season at home against the Eagles. You had Julio Jones taking that little bubble screen or tunnel screen from Matt Ryan to the house.
And Jake Matthews destroying somebody on that block.
Great block. So hopefully we get to see number 2 thrown to number 11 there. I know there's a whole lot of salary cap stuff we have to grind through before we get there, but hopefully, again, we get to see number 11 lining up for the Atlanta Falcons. But also in the news in terms of the schedule there, the Atlanta Falcons will be playing in London coming up this year on October 10th. They'll be taking on Zach Wilson and the New York Jets, and the Falcons will be the home team in that game. So what does that mean? Only 7 games coming up, or is it 8, Cody, with the additional schedule? If you don't mind, well, I guess we don't know yet based off of that. But if I had to imagine, since you're adding the 17 games, if you're the quote-unquote home team, I have to imagine they give you 8 and 8, 8 home, 8 away, plus the London game. I don't think they take 1 away from you.
That makes sense.
So
but it's the NFL. So,
but what it has meant in the past, Cam, is that if you are the home team in that London game, that meant one of your 8 home games was going to be taken away. So if I have to imagine, they probably would have scheduled them as 9, having 9 home games, and then you take one of those and give it to London. So you have an even split, 8 on the road, 8 at home, and then 1 in London. But there have been some interesting articles, and I was reading one on ESPN.com about how schools and pro sports teams now more and more are buying into these games because they just make sense money-wise. If you're a school, for example, I don't know, I got a Florida State shirt on, like Florida State, right? It makes sense to go play the game like the Camping World Classic, the Open, the season. It makes sense to go play that because it's nothing but money for your school. You're not having to pay out for stadium employees. You're not having to pay out to the local municipalities for police and having the EMSs and EMTs on scene. So you don't have to have all of that, right? So all you're getting is a big paycheck and then whatever your expenses are to travel. But a lot of times you play in state. Like, I don't think Georgia is going to pay for hotel rooms or anything when they go to play Clemson in Charlotte, right? Yeah. It's just going to be a drive up from Athens to Charlotte, and you take on Clemson, you collect a huge paycheck, and you come home, and you're not having to spend any of that money. Same thing is happening in the NFL where, you have to fly to London, but I have to imagine there's some kickback on that where the NFL is going to help pay for the travel expenses of the teams in London, and then you don't have to pay the stadium employees. You don't have to pay, again, City of Atlanta to send police, the fire department, ambulances, all the other stuff you have to pay for inside of a home game. So money-wise, it makes a lot of sense for these teams to do this, but it may not make the fans very happy because you're taking away football in general, right? In college, you have 6, maybe 7 chances to see your team at home. In the NFL, you have 8 chances to see your team at home, maybe 9 now. We have 8 to 9 chances all year. And it's your favorite team, 8 to 9 chances all year to see them at home, and you take one of those weeks away. There's a lot of fans that aren't a big fan of that. I'm just curious what your guys' opinions are on these neutral site games, taking games away from the home stadiums.
I don't have an issue with it. I think it's good for the NFL to branch off their sport overseas in London. We know football is an American sport, and football, across the world is kind of like soccer in an instance. It's soccer, but I like it. I don't have an issue with it. Okay, eight games at home, 8 games here. That's what we're accustomed to. So I don't see an issue with it. I
don't like it. I don't. Call me an old man. Call me all. Get off my lawn,
man. You got all that gray in your beard.
No, I like it. All the home games, especially being from the fans that pack out the stadium and love doing it. Just like I know I'm going to bring up the Denver Broncos. I am a Denver Broncos fan. They have sold out the most games in a row in any sports history, like 35 years straight, so like 38 years straight. So they take it very serious. So when you take a game away from freaking Denver, they're not a big college place. That is precious to them. So you trying to take away and take it to London or something like that? I don't like it.
You are taking it away from the city itself, like especially with college games. You're taking it away from where Athens. I have to imagine that the biggest weekends for the year are the 6 weekends they get during the regular season where Georgia's playing football games, right? Where you have an influx of at least 100,000 people roughly that are going to be in and around the game, plus just the people who want to be in around the stadium. Go ahead, Cody.
I have for each team, the 17th game features opponent from the opposing conference that finished in the same place within their division the previous season. That's how they do it.
Well, that's just the additional opponent.
Yes.
I was referring to the Falcons, and again, we're not going to know until they put it out. But if I have to imagine, now this is a 17-game schedule, you'll have 8 home games, 8 away games, and 1 neutral site game for the teams playing in London, right? Because some teams are going to have more home games than the other teams because it's an odd number schedule now. And they'll probably flip that every single year. But again, the Atlanta Falcons on October 10th will be heading to London to play that game. But I think a lot of that too is look at the teams that are playing in these games. You have the Dolphins playing the Jaguars, and you have the Falcons playing the Jets. 4 teams, like you said. I was like, what about the fans that pack out the stadium? None of those fan bases pack out the stadiums right now.
Yeah, it's true. You're right.
And it's because it's been bad products for the most part, right? I know there's a lot of Jets fans like, we pack it out. I don't know if you've been watching Jet games at MetLife, not packed out.
Yeah, no,
not packed out. And specifically for 1 game a year, you weren't going to make more money hosting the Falcons if that was the way it went, or the Falcons hosting the Jets. They weren't probably going to make more money hosting that game than they would have had to spend out. I'm not saying it'd be a net loss, but they're going to make more money just traveling to London and do that way with their ticket revenue and the kickback they get from the NFL. They're going to make more money. And then when you look at these college games, they get huge paychecks for playing in this game, sometimes $3-4 million for playing in this game. That's a huge amount of money for just showing up.
If I was a season ticket holder and they took away a home game from me, I'd be irate.
Well, I
don't know.
I want
to see 8 games.
You can be irate. I just don't know if you have the right to be, because unless they're charging you the same amount for 8 than 9, then I'd be like, why, if you're taking the game away?
It's not the point.
Or if there's like a kickback to where you could like expense out going to the game in London. I don't know, somewhere in there. But I get what you're saying for the 10,000 some odd people that actually go to every Falcons game. But what about the other 70,000 empty seats? It's bad.
I don't.
It's bad.
But it's no. You gotta have home games. You can't just take them away from
in
the
some
fans,
of these Falcons
dude.
games a couple years. I'm not going to count 2020, but a couple years ago, some of those Falcons games, you could hear a pin drop in Mercedes-Benz. I mean, the busiest days they have aren't Falcons games. It's the SEC championship. It's the college football openers that they play, the Chick-fil-A kickoff classic, right? It's the Peach Bowl that they play there. Obviously, the SEC championship. It's those that are the busiest. Atlanta United games are busier than Falcons games, right? I don't fault Arthur Blank at all. I don't fault Shad Khan at all. If you're not going to pack out TIAA Bank, and I get it, the teams haven't been good. Why would you? But they have to make money.
It is not a. I will speak for going to a million Jags games. Not a good stadium.
But I mean,
just because they got pools,
I'm
doesn't mean it's
not
a good
even
stadium.
I'm not even going to say the stadium though, because if it's a good product, people will show up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the stadium is.
Oh yeah, the Bills fans will show up. I was there for that game.
Yeah.
Pack them out, boy. It was a lot of Bills fans.
Yeah, I don't think the stadium inherently matters. I think it's what the team's doing on the field. That's why, and we've talked about this before, I've never been a big fan of the bad sports town thing where it's like, oh, you haven't sold out every single game for 40 years in a row like the Broncos have. The hell is wrong with you guys?
What's wrong with you guys?
We've never been good.
Get
and
better.
It's a salary cap league, so I don't want to hear that it's like, well, you have to support the team so they'll have the money to spend on players. No, that's not how it works.
It affects the players if there's nobody in the stands.
Sure, I would agree with that.
It's
but
demoralizing.
But should I, Cody, as an Atlanta Falcons fan, spend money on a team that went 7-9, 7-9, and 4-12?
Yes.
Why?
Because you're a fan.
Why?
Then you're not that big of a fan.
I'm absolutely a fan, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, no, that's the end of it.
But again, it took 8 years for them to fire Thomas Dimitroff,
Yeah.
or longer than that.
So because of their decisions, you're not as big as a fan.
I
Because
don't
they're
think
not
that's true.
good. You're just not as big as a
I
fan
don't
to
think
spend
that's
money
true.
on.
I think
them.
when the team consistently makes terrible decisions, like the Florida Marlins, let's say the Florida Marlins, for
Mhm.
example, right? Or the Miami Marlins, but I'll say Florida Marlins because when they did the 2 fire sales, they were the Florida Marlins, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It's you build a team, they fall in love with the team, you start packing out the stadiums,
Mhm.
and then you fire sell everybody, and you expect me to come back? No,
Loyal
no,
to the death of
no,
you.
hell no.
Do it.
Hell no, I'm not doing that, and I think it's the only power you truly have as a fan base is your wallet.
Yeah.
And if you want to say you have a problem with something, then you have to show it with your wallet.
I'm loyal. I once watched Tim Tebow score 0
And I don't want
touchdowns.
to hear about
0
loyalty.
touchdowns and lose.
I don't want to hear about loyalty. When was the last time you went to a Broncos game in Denver?
When I lived there,
When was the last time you went to a Broncos game in Denver?
2014.
Okay, I don't want to hear about loyalty.
But I lived there.
When was the last time you spent $1 on the Denver Broncos?
I bought a hat not long ago. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Okay, so yeah, get the hell out of here.
Loyalty.
Sitting on your high horse, pun intended. We'll come back. We got more to come here on Second Down. PFF put out their top returning players rankings in college football. Notable since for one college football playoff contender on these lists. We'll come back and talk about it right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Got a big show coming up today on 3 and Out. We will hear from Ben Hartstog, ESPN and Sirius XM Radio. Dive in more to the Tim Tebow saga that is now happening. Urban Meyer speaking with Chris Collinsworth yesterday, saying that a decision is going to have to be made soon on whether or not they bring one Timothy Tebow into Jacksonville. So we'll catch up with Ben Hartstog about that. Also, Seth Emerson from The Athletic covers Georgia. I have a great conversation with him about his State of the Union for Georgia football and some previews as we head into the summer ahead of the 2021 season. Then we'll also catch up with Anthony Trace, our good friend from PFF. Now, we are right in the middle of the college football offseason, right? Usually Cinco de Mayo is when you get right to the middle of it. And they just put out their player rankings for returning players inside of college football. So obviously freshmen excluded from this. Noticeably absent from every single skill position, the University of Georgia. They put out their top 10s for quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, tackles, line, interior defensive line, edge rushers, linebackers, corners, safeties. And when you go through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, there's not a single Georgia player inside the top 10 in any of the PFF rankings. Of interest, the quarterback, Spencer Rattler's number 1. I think most people pretty much have him as the best quarterback coming back in college football. He's really good. I think he probably deserves to be up there. Sam Howell from North Carolina, number 2, kind of plateaued a little bit in his sophomore year. But again, 2020, kind of an odd year. And North Carolina really became more of a running football team. They had 2 guys selected in the first 3 or 4 rounds of the NFL draft. So obviously a little bit different offense. De'Aaron King comes in at 3rd on this list out of Miami. De'Aaron King, really good football player. Really good football player. I think Miami is going to be much improved next year. Then skipping down a few, Matt Corral out of Mississippi is number 6. Grayson McCall out of Coastal Carolina, who had a phenomenal freshman year. Watch out for him to be the Sun Belt Player of the Year. He comes in at number 7. Old DJ5 at Clemson comes in at number 8. Miles Brennan at LSU comes in at number 9. And Kadon Slovis at USC comes in at number 10. Noticeably absent from this list, one JT Daniels.
That's why I was shaking my head. 100% completely. With De'Aaron King being over him, I don't understand it. I think he's top 3 returning next year. I think JT Daniels is going to feed off this, big guy. Feed off this. The mustache feeds off this. Come on, dude. There's no way, man. You got a kid from UCF over him. Like, he's a great player.
Dylan Gabriel's a baller.
Yeah, dude, JT Daniels is a baller. JT Daniels is more of a baller.
Is he?
I think so.
Is he?
I think
Miles Brennan is what's getting me right now.
I'm a big JT Daniels fan, but I'm looking at it. I'm trying to look at it more from a national view than from the local radio station that carries Georgia football, right? JT Daniels, we have 4 games of tape on him at Georgia. Yeah. And you had 1 game that he was unbelievable. You have 1 game where he hardly needed to throw a pass against South Carolina because you were ripping off 8 yards a carry. You had a pretty good game against Missouri, and then you had a very average game against Cincinnati.
I think he's averaging with those 4 games almost 300 yards per game.
I mean, you had that
over 300.
crazy. You had that crazy game against Mississippi State when you came out, but against and I don't care about yards. I really don't. I care about the scoreboard. And he put up 24 points on Cincinnati. Like, now, do they have a very good defense? Sure, but do you think Alabama's only put up 24 points on Cincinnati? You think Clemson or Ohio State were only putting up 24 points on Cincinnati?
I think UCF would get beat down by Cincinnati.
That's not what I'm saying, though. I'm saying JT Daniels, the case study we have and what you're trying to get at the University of Georgia is national championship level.
Yeah.
And the whole storyline I've been fed this offseason is that you have Todd Monken. He has his quarterback now. You have the weapons all over the place. Even though George Pickens got hurt, you still have a plethora of weapons, and I'm not saying you don't have that. But this is the story I'm being fed. You have all the running backs you need. You have a very talented offensive line. You just need them to gel, and Georgia is going to have that offense. I just looked through PFF, and again, PFF is a resource and a website used by actual college programs. Like 84 FBS programs use their research and player analytics. ESPN uses them. NFL Network references them all the time. This isn't just some.
We use them. Yeah.
This isn't just some basement website. This is PFF.
Yeah.
Right. You go in their quarterback rankings, their running back ratings, and their wide receiver ratings, and their tight end ratings. You don't have a single Georgia player in any of those. So I'm just wondering, Cam, are we kind of just being fed lip service and falling into the trap that we fall into every offseason, which is this is the year for Georgia's offense? I'm looking at these rankings. I see 0 Georgia players.
I actually like it. Every year it's some type of hype around Georgia. Every year. Growing up as a Georgia fan, I see it. We're flowing below the radar finally. I don't see how they put DJ in there. He's played 1 game. Miles Brennan from LSU, he's played 3-4 games. He got injured. So I don't see how you put them 2 ahead of JT when JT's undefeated, be the top 10 team. But at the same time, I like Georgia flowing below the radar. It's okay. JT is definitely a top 10 quarterback. He's going to be a first-round pick this year because he's going to blow up this year. He has all the tools necessary to be successful. He just has to put it out on the field now.
I don't understand, but especially at the wide receiver position, not having anybody like that.
But I mean, who would you point to?
Maybe there's.
I'm serious.
You're right.
When you look at the wide receiver position, George Pickens, if he was healthy, he'd be in there.
Yeah, he would.
But he's not healthy.
I totally forgot about the injury to George Pickens. Oh my gosh.
He's not there. And then Cam, you talk about DJ from Clemson. I mean, the one game he started was against a college football playoff Notre Dame team. He went 29 for 44, threw for 439 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's okay.
JT Daniels doesn't have a game like that. And he was a true freshman. JT Daniels was technically a junior.
Junior, yes. Yep.
And so, I'm just trying to take a step back because I've been flowing with the Georgia hype, like the offensive hype. I think the defense is going to be really good. I think people are concerned about the secondary. They got dudes on that. That defensive front is going to be nasty, and the secondary is going to be okay. My concerns on the offensive side of the ball. Y'all know my concerns with the offensive line.
Yes.
Now, Jamari Sawyer is ranked inside their top 10, and Justin Schaefer is ranked inside their top 10 on the offensive line there. So you do have really good offensive linemen. We don't know how that's actually going to end up meshing, and there's going to be, I think, some rotation on there until you find a solid core group of 5 guys. But last year, you got your butt whooped in a lot of games on the front. Like, I mean, the Mississippi State game immediately sticks out of mind. Yeah, JT Daniels threw for a lot of yards, but you could not run the football against Mississippi State. No matter what you tried with all your running backs that you have in that quote-unquote stable, you could not run the football, right? And then you move on, and again, the Cincinnati game, you really couldn't do anything running the football, and you hardly could protect JT Daniels. He was having to get the ball out like that, or he was getting sacked. And I get it. They do have some guys that are going to be NFL players. Myjai Sanders out of Camden County, number 21 for them, is ranked inside of PFF's top 5 edge rushers returning. And he was getting after JT Daniels a little bit. But again, what you don't inherently see when you're watching the game and you start yelling at the quarterback and you start yelling at the play calling is these wide receivers have to be able to get separation. And it makes the quarterback look like the quarterback's the one messing up, when in reality, these wide receivers can't shake loose of the guys covering them. So you better hope Kearis Jackson, you better hope that Jermaine Burton can take that next step. Donnie Mitchell, the true freshman, I think he's going to be a part of it. Darnell Washington, John Fitzpatrick, those guys are going to be big parts of it. Neither one of them, your 2 big tight ends, ranked inside top 10 tight ends, according to PFF. So I just, obviously PFF does not determine how a season's going to shake out. I understand that, but it does give me pause and make me say, are we maybe overvaluing the weapons Georgia has? And this is all relative, right? When I say this, it doesn't mean that 125 out of 130 FBS schools wouldn't immediately trade position groups with you. Like, wouldn't immediately trade all their wide receiver for yours. But you're not trying to be better than 125 teams. You're trying to be better than 130, right? That's what you're trying to do. Or I guess 129. It's those 4 teams that you just can't seem to get past, right?
Yeah.
And really the one in your conference, Alabama, you just can't get past them. And I know they're not on the schedule, but you're going to play Alabama in the SEC championship. If you make it to the SEC championship, you're going to play Clemson and you're going to play Florida. And Florida had gotten closer every single year until last year where they blew your doors off. So you better be ready, and you better hope that PFF is wrong and some of these guys can step up. I mean, I'm looking at the running back group. think you have a lot of very good running backs.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you have that guy?
No, you don't.
You guys know who's ranked number 1 according to PFF at the running back position?
Hang on. From
Tank Bigsby
Yeah,
from
Tank
Auburn.
Bigsby, Auburn. Yeah.
And I mean, he's my preseason prediction to win the SEC Offensive Player of the Year just based on the offense, what he does as a freshman. But do you have that difference maker as a running back? Because I haven't been overly impressed with what I've seen from Zamir White so far. I think he's a really good running back. I don't think he's been great. I think James Cook should get the ball more out of the backfield.
You know, I like James Cook.
I think Kenny McIntosh should get the ball more out of the backfield. But does Georgia have one running back that can take over a game? I don't know. I just can't. I'm trying to be neutral about it and just take a step back and actually look at the broad spectrum of Georgia's offense and say, yeah, there's a lot of stars there from recruiting services, but do they actually have one of the top 10 offenses in college football, and will that be good enough?
I don't believe they do. Until we have to see it to believe it. I'm not a huge Zamir White fan. He's solid, but I'm thinking like Todd Gurley, Sony, Nick Chubb in that tree. He's not that. So you're right. It's unproven commodities on the offensive side, especially that we don't know about. So they have a lot to prove this year. We don't have that difference make on offense. We haven't had that since the national championship team, in my opinion.
I think they'll have top 10 quarterback play. That's probably if George Pickens was there, I would definitely say top 5 wide receiver kind of thing going on, because he opens up other positions and everything. But that's it. That's not even on defense. I don't have much hope for this Georgia team to be that good, but I do think quarterback play will be their strongest suit.
Here's my concern. Against Arkansas, you average 2.9 yards per carry, right? That ain't going to get it done. Against Mississippi State, you average 0.3 yards per carry. That ain't going to get it done. Against Cincinnati, you averaged 1.9 yards per carry. So you threw the ball for 400 yards. You were throwing that rock all over the place, Cody, but you ran the ball for 40 yards.
Yep.
And that's what you're able to do in those games.
Not going to win games.
That's not going to be able to get it done. When you've seen people talk about Joe Burrow and LSU and what they were able to do, Clyde Edwards-Helaire led the SEC in rushing that year. You have to have some sort of balance, right? For everything you talk about Mac Jones and Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle, Najee Harris was the first running back off the board in the NFL draft.
Yep.
Like, you have to have some kind of balance. Georgia's going to have to be able to run the football, and you better hope and pray that guys like Kearis Jackson, Jermaine Burton, Jack Saint, if he gets back healthy, right, can create some separation. Donnie Mitchell, Arian Smith, those guys are going to have to help JT Daniels out, because he could pinpoint a ball, but you're going to have to create some separation for him. And that's where my concern is right now. And PFF doesn't believe he's as good at pinpointing that ball as at least 11 other quarterbacks in the country, because they had Emory Jones actually hanging out as a player to watch under 10 and not JT Daniels. So I just thought it was interesting as I was looking through those. I was like, man, there ain't any Georgia G's next to any of these names right here. That's something that just doesn't match up with the storyline I've been fed all off season. We got more to come here on Second Down. Braves blew the lead last night. Bullpen comes up wanting, I'll say, but I don't inherently think it's all the bullpen's fault. We'll come back and talk about it right here on Second Down.
I need you to take 3. It's actually, these are simple, very simplistic, so it won't take long. What you doing? No, I'm just saying, what are you doing? Like, I'm just asking what you up to, Camille.
Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside Cody Queen and Cam Urshby. Glad you are hanging out with us. Guys, it's become quite a troubling trend. Atlanta Braves don't do too hot when they take on the Toronto Blue Jays. Doesn't matter if they take them on down in Dunedin, Florida, or in Atlanta. Braves just cannot get past the Blue Jays. Last night, they dropped their fourth straight this year to the Blue Jays 5-3. You actually got a solid start out of Bryce Wilson.
You did.
He goes 6 innings, gives up 2 earned runs. But here is my problem with it. We got nervous because we were talking about this yesterday on 3 and Out. Bryce Wilson, so far in the regular season in his career, has not gone more than 5 innings. And last night, when he got through 5 innings with no runs given up, sitting there thinking, maybe time to put in somebody else, let the bullpen carry this one the rest of the way. And old Snit did not do that. I can't fault him. You really don't pull a guy. I think he was around 60, 70 pitches and hadn't given up a run. Don't pull him. Ends up walking a batter, and then old Vlad Guerrero Jr. comes up and just absolutely knocks the cover off of a baseball. And all of a sudden, it goes from 2-0 to 2-2 like that. And then a little bit later, end up getting pulled. But he goes 6 innings, gives up 2 earned runs. But it's 2-2, right? Marcell Ozuna comes up the very next inning, smacks a 2-out, 2-strike home run. Braves currently lead the major leagues in 2-out home runs. So it's 3-2, and it's a bullpen game now. A majority of the bullpen had a very good night. AJ Minter had an absolute nightmare. How's this for a stat line, Cam? 0.0 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 earned runs. So you did not retire a batter, and you have 0.0 in your innings pitched, but you gave up 3 earned runs. That's a tough look. I think that's technically, like, for that night, like an infinite ERA.
It is,
because you did not get a batter on. That's a pretty tough look for old AJ there. Braves would go on to lose it 5-3. Ronald Acuna hit his league leading 11th home run last night. But here, I reference this a little bit later. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Everyone wants to point at the bullpen last night and say bullpen blew that game, should have been a Braves win. Toronto has one of the best lineups in baseball. Your pitching staff gave up 5 runs. I think if you start a game, you say you're going to give up 5, you're like, all right, I like our chances there to come out and win that game, put up 6-7 runs, right? Braves scored 3 runs last night. 2 of them came because of Ronald Acuna Jr., right? First inning, gets around the bases, scores, hits a home run, hits a solo shot, right? And then you have Marcell Ozuna. Currently on the Braves roster, there are 2 guys in the lineup that start regularly that have a batting average higher than 230. Obviously, one of them is Ronald Acuna. He's batting over 300 right now. Can either of y'all name the other guy?
Pitcher.
oh, Yo Panda.
Starts
No?
regularly.
Oh, starts regularly. Oh,
Austin Riley.
No.
Austin Riley is the only regular Atlanta Braves starter with a batting average higher than 230.
Yep.
And his is 288 right now. Ozzy Albies is hovering right about 230. Christian Pache well below 200 in batting average right now. I wonder how much longer that's going to last in the lineup if Ender Inciarte comes back.
Freddie Freeman's at 220.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman, it's gone a little bit better, but it's still not what you've seen in the past. Marcell Ozuna, he's gone on a little bit of a run, but still well below 250. I mean, this, as much as we want to blame the pitching staff, Cody, and I know you love blaming the pitching staff, this offense just cannot get it in gear.
It's one thing or the other with the Braves. So I understand you gave up 5 runs, but dude, you're right. This is one of the best hitting teams.
Yeah, if you give up
in
5 runs against
baseball.
the Blue Jays, I think you're taking that. You tell
So
Smith before the game, hey, you guys are going to give up 5. You want to take that? Yeah, we'll take that. Let's
So
play with
you have
that.
to match it after that. You have to match it after that. Freeman was up there 4 at bats, didn't really get anything done. It's one thing or the other, dude. I complain about pitching. Next thing you know, the pitch is not bad, and then they just can't hit. Like I don't know what to complain about today.
And that's what kills me, Cam, is we keep waiting for this team to finally get up. They have not been over 500 all season. They started out with the sweep against the Phillies, right? And they have not been able to get back over 500 since. So I mean, we're just waiting for this team to finally do it. Again, they'll probably win the game tonight, be at 500, and then lose the game.
Knock on wood. Don't do that.
I mean, Cam, it's slightly infuriating at this point.
Yeah, it can be frustrating, but I just don't get it. This is the team I guess they cannot beat. Hopefully they change what I just said tonight, but you're right. You get back to 500, then you lose 2 games. Now you're below 500, 2 games below 500. They're just doing this seesaw battle up and down. When are they going to get consistent and win some games? Get on a little streak, get hot. Let's get over 500 and have the fans relax, chill, and let's get on to some good baseball. But right now, it's just up and down. I don't know what I'm getting from the Braves.
As long as I have been down here, I have never met a relaxed Braves fan, let alone a relaxed any kind of Atlanta sports
Yeah, I was about to
fan.
say, you've never met a relaxed Atlanta sports fan. If you have, they're not a real Atlanta sports fan. But we got the Braves coming up tonight against the Blue Jays. We'll have the full Braves pregame as well as play-by-play coming up for you a little bit later tonight. Max Fried back on the mound. He had last night's start pushed to tonight, so he'll be on the mound tonight, trying to make it 2 consecutive quality starts for Fried there. That coming up a little bit later. 3 and Out coming up after us. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. Final segment of Second Down next. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. We're, of course, presented to you by the Uniform Source. Got a little bit of day baseball coming up for you tomorrow afternoon. The Braves first pitch at 12:20. That'll roll through us and bring you directly in to 3 and out there. So no second down.
Oh, really?
Tomorrow afternoon. But again, hopefully the Braves get the win tonight. 7:20 first pitch. Max Fried going out there on the mound. We'll have full coverage of the pregame for you immediately following 3 and out. And then, of course, play-by-play coverage for you as the Braves currently sit at 17-18 on the season. Just like we said, can't seem to get past that 500 mark. Currently 3 games behind the league leading or the division leading New York Mets, who are currently 18-13 right now. But Cody's got to stay around 500. You got the Mets coming up on the schedule very soon. But a big show also coming up for you on 3 and out coming up next. BJ, Ben, and Kevin will break down the game last night. Also, Ben Hartsock of ESPN and Sirius XM Radio going to swing by and break down the latest from, call it the Tim Tebow saga.
Yeah, I love the giggle you did.
I'm watching the audio of him talking to Chris Collinsworth. He's like, Urban Meyer. He's like, I sent 2 scouts and some coaches to work out with Tim Tebow, and they just came back and they're like, wow, this guy, unbelievable. Cam, do you think any NFL coach or scout has ever said, wow? Like when they came back to report to their head coach, we're like, wow.
Yeah, when they seen that report, like just I can see they probably have interaction in the locker room saying, wow, did you just see what happened? Tim Tebow going to the Jags.
I imagine
all
scouts in like pro sports are 75-year-old guys from Moneyball. And I don't see any of them saying, wow, period. But again, we'll talk to Ben Hartsock about that. Seth Emerson from The Athletic. We'll ask him about some of the stuff we were talking about with Georgia. He did a State of the Union piece on The Athletic about the University of Georgia, Kirby Smart's tenure so far, and whether or not this is the year Georgia has to win a national championship. So we'll catch up with Seth Emerson about that as well. If you missed any portion of the show, check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts. No second down tomorrow, but there will be a 3 and out following Braves baseball.